Hey everyone, Dalton Grados with Grados Capital here. Hope you like this painting here that I have in the background. That's by Jason Skeldon, a local artist here in Florida. So shout out to Jason. Cool painting. Anyway, I wanted to make a quick video talking about my style of trading and why I particularly enjoy this style of trading. And so if you've been watching my channel for any period of time, you probably know that some of my older videos, I was kind of trading the way most people trade, just buying calls and puts on sort of whatever the hot stocks were of the day or the week. And as I sort of evolved as a trader, I really dialed in to what my current strategy is now that is very consistent for me and provides a consistent, reliable income. Is just trading SPX, and that's the S&P 500 index. And particularly, I sell credit spreads in the options market on SPX. And I'm going to talk about 6 reasons why I enjoy this strategy and why I would recommend it to others. So the first reason I like trading SPX is simply to have a bread and butter trade. I've found that a lot of the more experienced and consistent traders have a bread and butter trade. They're not trading a different stock every day. They just have a few that they stick to and that they know and understand really well. And I've always been attracted to the idea of having a bread and butter trade. It took me, it takes every trader their journey. It took me about 9 months to kind of find what works best for me. And the great thing about trading is you can have a niche in whatever you want. There's people that only trade Forex, and they trade, they focus on the difference between the euro and the US dollar, and that's their bread and butter, and they just focus on that. I've seen other people that only focus on oil and natural gas, and they just know and understand that market very well. They pay attention to what's going on, specifically related to that. They understand the charts and are able to chart very well because they understand the historical patterns. And I just, in general, think it's very wise as a trader to have a bread and butter trade. And now I exclusively trade credit spreads on SPX. Now, that's because I found it to be very consistent. It's my bread and butter, and I'm building my account. When my account grows to be multiple 6 figures, I will certainly be spreading the wealth at that point. I'll be owning shares and selling covered calls against those shares. I'll be, investing away in cryptocurrencies and real estate and all the other things. But my bread and butter trade that has been bringing me consistent results has been this. And that might be different for you, but I think it's really good to find a bread and butter. Okay, the second reason along with that is, I kind of alluded to it before, is it's easier to track. When you're focusing on one thing and you're narrowing in on that, you start to be able to track it better because you know and understand that are key levels, and you understand sort of how that particular underlying, in my case SPX, moves in a day, sort of what the ranges are, and you're just able to predict it better because you're able to track it better. What I like about SPX in particular is it's the S&P 500, right? So it's essentially the US stock market, the most diversified index that we have of the market. And so, there's a number of things I pay attention to determine where SPX is going to go, namely the 10-year yield, the dollar index, oil, financials, and tech. And I look at what all of those things are doing, along with, what's going on in the news, what the president's saying, what the Fed is saying, to ultimately determine, where I think SPX is going to go that day. The third reason I like trading SPX is because naturally, being an index of 500 stocks, it's going to move in a lot tighter of a range than a single stock that just one piece of news, say if it's a mid-cap company like AMD, okay? AMD, they're a very volatile stock. They're one single company. One piece of news comes out about AMD can really drive it one way or the other, but that's not going to affect the whole index. So that's not to say that the index is not capable of making vast movements. It just takes a lot more for all 500 stocks to move one way or the other. And so it's much more of a less volatile underlying to trade. Another thing that I like about SPX, and I specifically like this about SPX rather than SPY, which is the ETF of the S&P. But with SPX, when you're trading options, those options are cash settled. So you cannot be assigned. There's no assignment risk that comes with options on shares of ETFs and equities. The index itself, you cannot buy it, so you cannot be assigned, and all of the options are cash settled, which is very important, especially when selling credit spreads. Okay, the fifth thing I like about trading SPX is the expiration dates are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, this just gives me a lot more options than weekly options or even monthly options, because there's just more expiration dates. So I like to trade 0 day to expiration, and I do that trade 3 days a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But even if I were to do some overnight trades, I would just have more options available to me as to when my expirations are. So if I wanted to do a weekly trade, I don't always have to do Monday to Friday or Friday to Friday. I could do Wednesday to Wednesday. And it just gives me more flexibility in there with where I can place my trades. And the final reason that I enjoy trading SPX is that there is a unique tax benefit with SPX or any of the indices if you trade index options, whether it's the NASDAQ, NDX, or the Russell 2000, RUT. Trading those index options has a unique tax benefit that you do not get with ETFs or shares of stock, and that is that all of the profits that you make are taxed. 60% of the profits are taxed at long-term capital gains rates, and 40% of the profits are taxed at the standard short-term capital gains. So this makes a big difference when all of your profits are essentially short-term capital gains. With the indices, 60% of them are taxed as if they were long-term. So to give you an idea of what that would look like, if I make 100 grand in profits trading SPX, 60 grand of that is taxed at the long-term rates. Now, what are the long-term rates? Anywhere between 15 to 20%. But for every dollar under 50,000, which would be the majority of that portion of my profits, that would actually be taxed at 0%. So then, say I made 100 grand total. 60 grand is taxed at long term, which means 50 grand of that 60 grand is not taxed at all, and then the 10 grand of that 60 grand is taxed at 15%, and then the remaining 40 grand of my 100 grand is taxed at regular short-term capital gains. And if you don't know, short-term capital gains is basically the same as standard income tax. So that's definitely a nice perk there. And in 5 years, I will be paying absolutely 0 taxes. And I have another video that I will link right here to watch that, a little trader tax hack on how you can literally pay 0 taxes on any capital gains when you trade in a certain account. So I will link to that video here. It's been gaining some viewership, especially since our President Joe Biden has proposed to double capital gains tax on anyone making over $1 million a year. And of course you should have aspirations to make over $1 million a year. I do, of course, and I know it will happen. It's inevitable. So those are the reasons why I trade the way I do. It's been very consistent for me because I just focus on one thing. Like I said, when you find what works for you, you find your niche, whatever that may be, and you just hone in on that one thing, then it's almost a relief. People come up to me and ask me all the time about, the hottest cryptocurrency or the hottest, what's the next GameStop or whatever. I'm not paying attention to any of that. I have my method. It works for me. It wins very consistently because I've honed in on it and dialed it in, and I know what I'm doing. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more content. Don't forget to also follow Grados Capital on Instagram. I'm very active there, and I will see you guys next time.